Welcome everyone. Today I'm really excited because I get to learn along with you. Elspeth here is going to be sharing a fun project with us. She is our pattern developer and craft help hotline extraordinaire. Welcome, Elspeth.
Thanks for having me, Emily.
Yeah, I'm so excited. What are we going to make today?
Today we're going to be making this beautiful silk wrapped rainbow. This is a really fun beginner level project, and I guarantee that anyone can make this. Really simple techniques. I think we're going to have a lot of fun wrapping this up.
Yay, I can't wait. Let's get started.
All right. For this project, you will need 5 colors of Silk Sari Ribbon, 10 feet of natural 9mm cord, sewing needle and sewing thread, sharp scissors, measuring tape, masking tape. Optional supplies are flat nose pliers and a hair comb. Now that we've gathered all of our supplies, we're going to start by picking up your masking tape and making a tape line.
Awesome.
This is how we're going to be able to make the arcs of our rainbow with some degree of uniformity.
Okay.
So I'm going to take about, I don't know, 1.5 feet of masking tape. And you can do the same.
Awesome.
And on this nice, clean, flat surface, I'm going to make a tape line about 6 inches from the edge of my table. It doesn't have to be perfect. All right, now that we've made our tape line, we're going to make our rainbow arcs.
Awesome.
And we just pick up our beautiful plush 9mm cord.
Great.
We've already cut ours to 10 feet.
Awesome. I love this material. It's so like plush and fluffy and really soft and fun to work with.
So then we're going to measure 25 inches from one tail or the other of your 9mm cord.
Okay. "25 inches. Okay.
Great. And now that you have your 25 inches,
Great.
you'll lay the tail of one side and the pinched 25 mark along your tape line
Okay.
so that the edges rest on that bottom edge of the tape line.
Great. There's a little arch already.
There's a little arch already.
I have
That's
a feeling I know what we're doing next.
And then what you're going to do is you're going to wind your rope, your cord, tracing the outer arch back to the other side of the tape line.
Okay. It's really like drawing with cord, isn't it?
It is. It's like laying down a little doodle.
I love that. Like I have those memories of drawing as a little kid, like hair.
It does look like that if there was.
Face.
Yep, I can see it. Okay. You should have enough cord for 5 rainbow arcs.
Awesome. Oop, I went. That was speedy.
There we go. 5 total, and maybe a little left over, which is a good thing because we'll trim at the end.
In general, it's always better to have more left over than less.
Oh, so much better.
Yeah.
Hate running out of material in the middle of a
I
project.
know, it's a real bummer.
Okay. Great. Rainbows.
Awesome.
All right, your shape looks great.
Thanks.
Look,
Yours too.
Mine's a little twisted. But you know what? We don't worry about that.
Great.
Yes,
Yeah, okay.
we're not going to worry about that. All the kinks in your rope are going to come out when you cut them. Now we have our rainbow. The next thing we'll do is cut the arcs.
Okay.
Yeah, and you're going to do that just by taking some extra sharp fabric cutting scissors, and I like to kind of hold this in place and cut very carefully cut towards myself.
All right. Yeah, I guess you could cut this way too, but it's better the way that she's doing it. rules, Elspeth. This is something I'm not used to doing. No, it's not like there's really rules with this, but
I like to think of them as hot tips.
I like that, hot tips.
Hot tips. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to tape off the fringe of our rainbow. I'm going to use this low residue painter's tape. This is a great all-around crafter's tool. We're going to cut 10 pieces per rainbow. Great, now we have all of our tape pieces cut, and these are really important because the tape is going to let us know where we start wrapping and where we finish wrapping. So we're going to measure with our tape measure. We're going to measure approximately 3 inches up from the edge of our fringe. And I'm going to start on the left side and work across, all the way across all 10 pieces. And again, my fringe line isn't perfect. Yours isn't perfect, but we'll trim it. I'm going to measure 3 inches up from the bottom. There's 3 inches. And then I'm going to lift my tape measure and place it right under there so that it's just like that.
So the tape goes like right at the line of the 1.
You got
right?
it.
So I'm like lining it up with the 1.
You got it, exactly.
So another thing you could kind of do, like this is about 1 inch tape, you could go 2 inches and put it above if you want to too.
Yes, you could do that too.
Cool. Just about having it consistent.
Yeah, and then the measurement becomes less important because, as you can see, this rope's considerably shorter. So I'm actually going to be making this line more against an imaginary line. It won't be 3 from here because that's more, but it'll be lining up with its neighbor in a straight line.
You know, for things like this, just from my experience, I know that there's a lot of, like, there's room to play within the structure, right? You're learning the technique. I'm learning the technique as we go, and it's always interesting to see how people will do things a little bit differently. So if you have a different way that you really like to do this, by all means, like, feel free to try your way too.
Absolutely. I think that the most important thing is always just finding your own flow and learning what's best for you in any given craft.
And then also really trusting the process.
Absolutely.
So it's okay that my lines aren't totally straight at the bottom?
Absolutely. You know, we'll just be giving those a nice trim and brushing them out when we finish. And, you know, I think it's okay if your first attempt isn't exactly how you want it, because every attempt is a learning opportunity.
It's not going to be perfect the first time I do it?
It might not be perfect.
Well, that's fine.
Mine might not be perfect. It's possible.
I think that that's something just in craft in general that's so important to remember, is that this is, like I was saying before, it is about your beginner's mind. Like, how often do we have the opportunity to be total beginners at something at this point in our lives? We're so used to, you know, doing the same things or in our lives, and so yeah, what a cool opportunity to try something new.
It's true, and I actually always find that my greatest revelations in any crafting process come from a big mistake. All right, it looks like you have all of your ends taped, I have my ends taped, and now it's time to wrap. So the next step is that we're going to take one of our butterflies of Silk Sari Ribbon. This is just such a fun material.
Yeah, I really like it. It's we work with artisans in India, and it's all recycled from actual silk saris. So what can happen with this material is that it can be a little bit irregular, and every once in a while you'll see a little spot where it's stitched and sewn.
I can see one right here.
You can see that there's a point where it's stitched, and that's really just adding to the uniqueness of this material.
It is a really unique material. It's really beautiful. I think that some of the recycled nature of it is what makes it so dynamic.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely.
It's not uniform, and so you're going to get a really, you're going to get a very textured and beautiful, and these colors are so rich.
Yeah, I love that.
That's something that's really appealing about it too.
Yeah, Elspeth chose a real traditional, kind of like a vibrant rainbow palette, and I decided to go for a little bit more of a desert neutral.
Yes, absolutely different.
I can't help it, it's just in my genes.
Yeah.
So we're taking, whichever one's going to be on the outside, or where are we going to start?
We're going to start from the outside working in.
Okay.
So this is going to be your longest cut. And now that it's taped, you want to keep these inner cuts in sequence, but you don't have to be too precious about them getting, mussed up, because they're in sequence. We're just going to take the longest rope, the outer rope, and we're going to work our rainbow from the outside in. So I'm going to push these just a little bit out of my way, knowing that this is the next one in sequence.
So like that?
Yeah, exactly.
Cool.
Oh, and that's nice because you can see the taper as it comes down, so you can see which one you'll be wanting to work with next.
So this is the inner. I just have to remember that this is the inner one, and I'm going to be taking from this top.
You got it.
Okay, cool.
Absolutely. Okay. Well, Emily, now that we've unbundled our silk sari butterfly, you're going to take one end. I feel comfortable having the end in my right hand. And I'm going to overlap it by about, you could do 6 inches, maybe even longer, from the end of this tape line. So it's going to overlap. And then finding the other end of the tape line, we're going to pinch these together.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oops. So I'm taking the end 6 inches.
Generous overlap.
Beyond.
Could be longer.
Yeah, maybe I'll do a little bit longer because I have a little bit of that stitch.
Yeah.
Stitched part right there. So I'll do a little bit longer. Okay, then I guide it all the way to the end here.
And then you pinch them together like this.
Okay. Right, is that right at that point?
You got it.
Okay, cool.
Okay. And now for the magic. This is the wrapping technique. It's really easy. So I'm going to, with my right hand, hold the longer length.
Okay.
And then pinching these two together, I'm going to wrap around the 9mm and my tail at the same time.
Cool.
And then watch this. It's just wrapping it as densely around there as you can so that all the 9mm is concealed. And that's pretty much all there is to it. It's just wrapping. And this is where it gets sort of meditative.
Yeah, and I mean, I noticed that as I twist the cord, as I twist the silk around, that sometimes it's a little bit bulky. Is that okay?
That is okay.
Okay.
This is the part of the process that I like the most, actually, because when we make things by hand, we reveal that they were made by hand. To me, that's the most beautiful part of the process. And also, it reminds me of, did you ever get hair wraps when you were growing up?
Oh, yes.
That's basically what this is.
I mean, for the Oregonians out there, the country fair, that was a real...
I can picture you there.
I was there. Yeah. I was definitely having fun, running around, my hair wraps. Oh,
I can see it now.
Crafter from the cradle.
All right, yeah. Look, I'm having that moment right now where I'm wrapping around that bit where it's sewn together, and there needn't be any anxiety about this process because as I'm wrapping, it kind of just disappears.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. I always have to remind myself to breathe, so if you need that reminder too, now's a good time.
I always need that reminder. You might notice that, like, my rainbow is a little bit kinked and curvy, that's okay.
Cool.
It'll all come out in the end.
Great.
That's like we were talking about earlier about trusting the process. We're going to be making 5 of these, and when they're all put together, they're greater than the sum of their parts.
And I'm noticing that mine's getting a little bit twisted. Do you have any suggestions for like the cord here?
Yeah, it depends what your wrapping style is. My wrapping style is that I'm letting the twist sort of happen and wrapping with the twist, just allowing them to be twisted. However, if you wanted to have a completely smooth ribbon wrap, it'll take a little bit longer, but you can twist the 9mm instead of twisting the silk.
Oh, that's a good tip. Yeah, because you can kind of stretch the sari silk out a little bit.
It's a slightly more laborious process,
Okay.
but I know that there are some perfectionists out there who might want to have a completely silky smooth rainbow arc. I'm more of an imperfect crafter. I like to see the little nebs, but that's a matter of personal preference.
Yeah, great.
You might also find that at some point it gets kind of annoying to wrap in this orientation. Right around the middle, this gets kind of long, this end, and I have to do more work to get around it. And at some point when you're ready, and only if it feels right, you can start wrapping from the other end.
Okay.
Like this, but only if it feels natural. Again, it all comes down to what your personal flow is, and there's really no one right way to wrap a rainbow.
Great. Yeah, it's funny. I almost feel like it feels a little easier going that way.
Yeah, whatever gives you the most satisfaction. That's my piece of advice.
Yeah, the whole point of this is that it's supposed to be fun.
That's
right?
true, don't forget.
So if you get to a point in your wrapping and you're thinking like, oh my gosh, you're like paying all this attention and it's feeling tedious, that's not the point. The point is to have fun and to enjoy it.
That's true, it shouldn't feel like work.
Right.
Yeah.
Getting close.
Getting close, oh great, me too.
Oop. Okay, so here's a good moment. What happens now? It looks like, so one of the things that can happen with this material is that because it's so delicate is that it can tear. And so this is perfect that it happened to me in mine. So you want to give me a little reminder, tutorial, or suggestion in case this happens to someone while they're tying this knot?
Absolutely.
While they're doing this wrap step here?
I can show you how to do that. I will cut mine too, so we can do it together.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. So it's true, this material is really fragile, and the sewn point actually came undone in her hand. Exactly. And you're pulling kind of hard, so it can happen. So to demonstrate, I'll cut mine. Oh no. Okay. Much like the beginning, you're going to take your long end. Thank you.
Yeah.
You're going to take your long piece, and you're going to point towards the end, you know, where you want to complete it.
Okay, so there's a new piece.
New piece.
Pointing.
And just a little bit, you know, maybe only 2 to 3 inches.
Okay.
And you're going to have all 3 of your silks pointing the same direction. And then, when you began, you'll just kind of pinch it all together, and you'll just start wrapping again.
Oh, amazing. That's so easy.
It's so easy. And then
I don't have to tie a knot or anything.
You don't
like
even
that.
have to tie a knot. It's really simple. It's a very forgiving process.
Oh, what a great tip.
Yeah.
I could see this being really fun also as a technique to do around plant hangers, like wrapping around the limbs of your macrame plant hangers.
Oh, I love that idea. My silk is narrower than your silk, and might take a little longer to wrap it completely, as each of these different colors has a different width.
I'm also kind of an overachiever and was going really fast.
She was going quickly. I was going more slowly.
It's funny sometimes what your craft style can tell about you. It's almost like we need to make one of those little horoscope quiz type things.
That would be great.
What does your craft style say about you?
Mm-hmm.
Right, you heard it here first. Yeah, I like where you get to the point at the end where you can really go, make it kind of flat. Make the ribbon flat on it.
Oh yeah,
So
there you go. Nice and
clean
smooth.
and smooth.
All right, I'm right at the end.
Me too.
Perfect. Okay, now you just snip your long silk
Okay.
to approximately the same length as your tail. You should have a nice tail. You do. Nice work. Okay.
I have all this extra.
You have extra. Well, let's talk about that. What would you do with a little bit of extra sari silk?
I think I would make some earrings.
I love that.
Yeah,
I might wrap some presents with this.
awesome.
So this is really simple. You're just going to take your tail and the end of your wrapping silk, and we'll just tie, I usually tie my overhand knots left over right and right over left.
Left over right. So then I'm pulling that through. And I'm pulling pretty tight.
Pull it tight.
Okay. And then right over left. It's just a simple overhand knot.
Yep. And then this
Awesome.
might seem a little scary, but we're going to snip this really close, like within 1/8 of an inch to the knot.
Okay. Like as close as I can get it?
Pretty much
Pretty
as close
much?
as you can get it, but
Okay.
not quite to the knot.
Okay.
Within 1/8 of an inch.
Okay.
Okay, and then we have scraps, and we'll put those off to the side. And that's the first arc of your rainbow.
So cool. Oh, I love it.
If you want to see, mine's a little, I think I wrapped mine pretty tight. And if I wanted to untwist it, I would just pull generously on either end, and it relaxes a little bit. All right, then we're going to take the next arc that would be in sequence, and we'll do it all over again.
This is so fun.
It's really fun.
It's almost all come together. I love it.
It's really exciting when you get to see your gradient really come into focus.
Yeah.
And yours looks beautiful.
Thanks. I mean, it's my first time, so I definitely feel like I feel my that part of my brain that's judging or feeling like maybe I'm not doing it perfectly.
And that's totally normal. I can completely relate.
But I think it looks really great. I love the process of wrapping the cords.
Yeah, it's really fun. I enjoy that too. So we have all 5 of our arcs, and we've lined them up so that you know where they're gonna land. And even mine, look at mine. Mine aren't perfect. They don't exactly line up. But some of this we can fine tune a little bit in this next step. All right, Emily, are you ready to sew?
Yeah, I'm ready to sew.
Do you like sewing?
I used to sew a lot, actually. I was a fashion designer before I did this.
Yeah.
Yeah, I used to make clothes. That's actually how we met.
Yeah, that is how we met. All right, so all we need for this step is your sewing needle and sewing thread. And
Sticking it in there.
yeah, we can stick it in there. This is kind of like our little makeshift pincushion for the time being. And we're gonna start by sewing from the outside in. And so for the sake of clearing your work surface and only having what we need, I'm gonna remove the inner 3 arcs and just put them up and out of the way,
Okay.
because I'm gonna start sewing from the left hand side of my 2 arcs. Again, if you're more comfortable working from the right side, then you should absolutely do that. This is just the way that it feels the easiest to me.
Okay.
So we're gonna take our sewing thread, and I'm gonna find the end, and I'm gonna unspool about 2 feet, and then find the center and double it over.
Okay.
The most important thing about cutting your thread here,
Oops.
ooh, we're tangled,
Tangled up.
is just that your sewing thread's not too long. You will not do yourself any favors by having a sewing thread that's too long. It'll get all tied up in knots, and that's not fun.
Yeah, no knots in this. This is a knot-free zone.
That's true.
Okay, so what are we doing here?
Yeah, here we're just going to tie an overhand knot. So you make a loop and
pull it through.
yeah, pull your tail through.
Okay, I've got my needles. My needle, finally threaded my needle.
Got your needle?
Yep, the hardest part.
The hardest part.
Solved. How do I know which side of the rainbow arch to sew?
That is a really good question. Thank you for asking. It's up to you which side you want to display and which side you might want to hide on the other side, on the wrong side, if you will.
Okay.
And if you'll notice, you've got some knots at the end where we tied off. If you don't want your knot to be displayed, maybe pick that side of your rainbow arc to be facing towards you during the sewing process, as we'll be sewing on the back side. You might also see that maybe there's a spot like on mine right here. Can you see that? You can see the 9mm. Maybe I don't want that to show, so I'll put that on the wrong side. So pick the side that you would like people not to see and face that towards you.
Perfect.
And now once you're lined up, I'm actually still using my tape line to sort of roughly orient where I want the arcs to be in relation to each other as we begin sewing. So I have them in their final shape.
Great. And mine's a little bit uneven. Do you have a suggestion for that? Like maybe do I line them up as close as I can?
Yeah, so what you're gonna do to get yours a little more even is you're going to cheat a little bit as you sew, and I'll show you how to do that.
Oh, cool, okay.
Yeah.
So then should I line this part up just a little bit more?
Yeah, start with the side you're sewing on most closely aligned.
Okay.
Yeah. All right, and with your sewing needle in hand,
Got it.
we're going to start sewing by taking your needle and catching just the very, very top layer of your silk. You do not want to go through all the layers at once. It will be too hard. So you catch the top layer of your silk, on your case on the yellow, and then the top layer of silk on the outermost arch. And you pull it through. And then you're going to go back the other way. You could say maybe 1/2 inch from the last stitch. Now, some of you might like to sew with thimbles. I do not like to sew with thimbles. And I'm finding this a little bit tough to push through. Sometimes it's because your needle might be a little bit dull. Sometimes it's actually the fabric is a little squeaky and the needle doesn't want to go all the way through. And this is where our little life hack comes in, which are these cute little flat nose pliers. And if this is more comfortable for you, you can sew like this and just pull these through. And I suggest using those anytime you feel the need to push the needle really hard with your finger. Don't do it.
Yeah.
You will hurt yourself.
Oh, yeah. I know, that's my inclination is to try to push it through with my finger. And I know, again, I get kind of stubborn when doing these things that I like to, no, I don't need the tool. But it's true, these two colors of the silk are very gentle and soft.
Yeah.
And it's really easy to push through them. We also have brand new sharp needles, so that note is very helpful.
And for whatever reason, mine are really sticky, and so I'm finding it helpful to use the pliers. So it's
okay, I'll give it a try.
Yeah.
Just kind of pinch that there. Pinch and pull.
Nice work.
Okay.
So we were talking about cheating the rainbow a little bit. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
So what you can do if you were, say, you wanted to make, you wanted these 2 points to meet at the end. Well, what you'd need to do is make up for some of that distance by just starting to just inch incrementally the yellow a little bit more toward. And the place where you'll really want to do this is at the top of the arc, because here you want it to travel straight, but here you can maybe pinch it a tiny bit. Yeah,
I see. Oh, great.
the goal is to do it so subtly that you wouldn't even notice that you're cheating it a little bit. So there's some fluidity to it still, even still in this part of the process.
The thread is just, doing its own thing for me today.
The thread has a mind of its own.
Yeah, and it seems like, in this case where mine got tangled, I might cut it and then cut the end off here to make sure that it's
To tie it off.
so that it doesn't, if that happens to you when you're making your rainbow, and then you just want to make sure that you go back over this part so that it's still going to stay together.
It's true. And yeah, if it's getting in your way, tie it off, and you can cut a shorter piece of thread, or like Emily's done, she's tying hers off, and she's going to use the remaining thread that will probably be a more manageable length this time.
Yeah, because I think I might have just had too much thread on the first time.
And when you run out of thread, when you reach the end of your thread, go ahead and cut another piece and knot it and continue.
Yours really shows up a lot. Your thread.
My sewing thread does,
Yeah,
yes.
it's nice. It's nice to really be able to see the lines and also where you're going through. Mine's a little bit more invisible.
Yeah, yours is invisible.
Mm-hmm.
Emily's picked a nice neutral color, and there's something to be said for that, I think, too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it blends in.
Yeah.
For the case of this demonstration, it's nice to be able to see the shape of the stitch pattern.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great. Elspeth, I've sewn all of my arches together.
You did a great job.
I'm so happy. It looks so great. And, you know, it's interesting because before I was saying that it was really hard to see the stitching, but on these other colors you can see it kind of showed up a little bit.
It's true. They do pop out.
Mm-hmm.
So we're done. We've reached the end.
Okay.
All you just want to take the tiniest stitch at your last stitch.
Mm-hmm.
Just take another tiniest stitch right on top of that. It'll make a loop, and you're gonna thread the needle through the loop to tie off.
Okay. So I've pulled it through. Then I'm making a little loop here.
Yeah, exactly.
And then it's gonna go through that loop.
You got it.
Okay, there we go. Oh yeah, I went through the loop. Okay.
Perfect. And then
Trim it.
just trim it out of the way, and then make sure to always park your needle in a pin cushion.
Yep, definitely. Don't want to poke yourself.
Absolutely. Okay, this is it. You have made your rainbow, and the last thing that we need to do is add a little tie so that you can hang it. So we're gonna flip it back over to the right side.
Yay!
We're gonna flip it over to the right side.
Looks so good. I can't believe that I made this. It's so exciting. All right.
And we had a little bit left over from our first arch. Do you remember? Yeah. You've plenty. Cool. So I'm gonna measure about a foot. Yeah, that looks good. And cut it. And then we're going to join the tails and tie them in an overhand knot. Like so.
Okay.
Beautiful. Okay. And then because those were wide stitches that we were making to sew our rainbow. Yeah, exactly.
Almost see through.
You can see through. So at approximately center, I'm going to thread the loop end between the two top arches, and the loop is going to go through. Got it? Oh, you got it. And then the loop is going to come through the tail end.
So it goes through twice.
Yes. You've looped this through in a lark's head, and the silk blends in perfectly.
It really does. It's like it's invisible. It looks just like part of the wrapping.
Exactly. So the last thing you might want to do, if your ends are a little bit unruly, is you can take your hair comb and comb out your fringe. And
Nice.
should you need to give it a haircut, now's the time.
Oh yeah. After you comb.
After you comb,
Cool.
it gets a little haircut.
Great. It's my favorite part of macrame projects is the trimming at the end, because it really feels like it brings it all together.
It's true, it makes it look very fresh.
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
And once you're finished trimming, You're ready to hang it.
Oh,
Where will you
yes.
hang yours?
You know, I have this spot in my kitchen that I think would look so nice.
That sounds beautiful.
Yeah. What about you?
Well, I have a very special place in my dining room that I think this would just be perfect for.
Oh, that's so great. I love it. Well, thank you so much, Elspeth, for sharing this beautiful and simple, fun project with all of us today. It was really great to be a beginner and to learn from you, and just what a pleasure.
It was my pleasure as well.
Yeah. All right. Well, happy rainbowing.
Happy wrapping.
Happy wrapping. Thanks for watching. It's a joy to have you as part of our fiber community. Follow along on all social channels @Modern Macramé. We can't wait to see what you create.